All right, everyone, you may have heard that funny story from Toronto where they had this little like city park area and they needed to build a stairway and they gave some crazy estimate. Oh, it's going to cost like 65,000 bucks to put in a set of stairs here so that people can stop walking down this little embankment. It's like maybe 15 feet or something like that. And some dude said, well, they're going to take a long time. It's going to cost a lot of money. So I'll put in the stairs myself. And he did it DIY. And it cost him like, what was it, like 600 bucks or less, ultimately. Then they tore him out. Now they decided to we can't deal with this DIY stuff because it's not up to code, so they had to strip it out. And then they gave a new estimate. Oh, it only cost like 10,000 this time. Yeah, like that's a big, it's a big savings, but it still costs a hell of a lot. Building those stairs up to code means in conformity with bureaucratic standards, not conformity with common sense standards of safety and usage. The stairs that he built were perfectly fine. Yeah, they probably wouldn't have lasted long since, you know, in a fairly humid climate and they're made of wood, so yeah, you would have had to replace them after 4 or 5 years probably, but still, you're saving a shit ton of money. See, the problem is this. Legalese and bureaucracy strangulate efficiency. What could be done as a private endeavor, and if it's done with halfway decent sound mind by someone who knows what they're doing, would cost relatively little, suddenly explodes in cost to the point where a vehicle that should cost, 15 grand costs 100 grand. A screwdriver you can get at the store for 10 bucks suddenly costs 100. You get a toilet seat for a submarine that costs thousands of dollars and things like that. And that's really the problem. This is what I've been speaking of. When you get all these overlapping layers of bureaucracy, and they make all sorts of weird rules that you have to follow so that there's 1,000 pages of paperwork to replace a section of sidewalk, it's going to cost the people a lot of money. Now, people do want properly functioning infrastructure. The roads need to be kept clear. They need to be passable. The sidewalks, if they're all, messed up, and someone could fall over, break their head or something like that. The stairs, they need to be not too steep. Otherwise, some people might find it difficult to use them. You don't want them falling apart. You don't want the parks poorly maintained. Got to keep things mowed and trimmed a bit so that they look good, so that they're not, potentially hazardous. You don't want waste piling up. You got to remove that or it's a fire hazard. We understand all these things. But if you privatize all of these things, they become a lot cheaper. The idea, see, here's the funny thing. This is the most hilarious thing of all. People who are like pro-socialism or they're pro-leftism or whatever, they're always worried about some corporation is going to screw us over. It's going to charge us too much money for some service or for some good, and they'll run roughshod over people and abuse them. Isn't that what the government does with shit like this? $65,000 for a set of stairs? Now, if this dude hadn't come in and constructed his $550 stairs, they never would have brought the price down to 10 grand, and that's still exorbitant. That's still a lot of bureaucratic bullcrap. You know where all that other money was going? It was going to go into the pockets of some private corporation chosen, sanctified by the government to be able to construct such a thing, and it would have taken 10 times longer, and it wouldn't have been any more functional. That's the whole point. Government interventionism doesn't mean you get a better product. It simply means you pay a lot more and it takes a lot longer to get it. Look at like the Big Dig in Boston. It took them, they went over budget like 4 or 5 times, and it dragged out for years and years, and it was not even started when it was supposed to be done, and then progress was really slow and traffic was all snarled up. I mean, even more than usual in Boston. For a long period of time. They construct it, they complete it, and like within a couple of months, one of the sections had collapsed. Thankfully nobody was killed when it did. I guess it wasn't peak hours for the Big Dig. I went through that, and it's like, yeah, this is a marvel to behold. It's a cool tunnel, and lighting and ventilation and everything. Some private company, given the leeway to do that for their own profit, probably could have gotten it done in half the time with half the budget. We have this problem in Vermont, specifically with regards to our road situations. Now, all these semi-private, in some cases, some private community roads, like Jasana Drive, The roads here are not completely controlled, I believe, by Rutland Town. And so they stay clear. They're cleared with decent efficiency and a decent frame of time and a lower cost. But the city roads, meanwhile, you look here at the quality of roads in some areas that are like that. They're pretty good. They're okay. You look at the city roads or the city sidewalks or the city signs or the city street lights, and they're always fucked up. Half the sidewalks in Rutland City are basically impassable. Like, yeah, try pushing a baby carriage down the street on some of those avenues. You're going to have a little bit of a problem. You might as well just carry your infant around and hope that you don't fall down on a crack or something. You find, like, all sorts of problems. They're all chipped and fucked up. And the reason why is if it were a private endeavor, like let's say that some homeowners got together and said, well, the sidewalk out in front of our homes is messed up. We're going to make our own molds and we're going to make some sidewalk. We're going to do it ourselves and install it ourselves. We'll replace the curbs. It would cost them probably a fifth of what it costs the city to do so. You know, if there weren't all these regulatory standards, like people ultimately will look out, generally speaking, for the infrastructure around them and try to maintain it themselves for free. You don't even need to pay any taxpayer money for it because people want those living standards. But so far, no enlightened group of people has suggested that that's a good idea. It just makes sense. If you've created a polite, infrastructure-enabled society, people will seek to generally order and maintain it along those lines. If a private company's called in, and you've got more than one private company to choose from, and you've got competition, they're going to try to get that job. So they're going to lower the cost to a substantial degree so that they're profiting, but at the same time, so that they can offer it cheaper than some other company you might be calling up about the same idea. Government doesn't do that. They have unlimited funding. They got the taxpayer money. They're like, well, I don't have to pay for this. It's not even in my community, so why would they care if it's good? They want it to be just decent enough and just cost effective enough so people don't riot. And that's really the only limitation on their infrastructure projects. So it ends up costing a lot more. It takes a lot longer, and they just say, oh, well, they didn't file this piece of paper, so even though the project's half completed, we gotta cordon this area off. It's now a danger zone. This public can't use it, even though you're living fucking right next to it. You can't use this park. It's like during the government shutdown. What happened? They close up a bunch of parks and memorial sites that don't even need staff to be regularly around. That's why their positions were cut during the shutdown, because they're non-essential. Why are we paying for things that aren't essential anyway? Those should be privatized. The rudiments, the government's economic situation should be this. A government should be in place to provide the rudimentary lattice upon which private endeavors are capable of thriving. It shouldn't be absorbing things into itself and providing everything. You've got townships and communities. They have various services they pay for. They pay for infrastructure and everything. Then you've got states or provinces. They do the same. Then you've got, nations, and they do the same thing. I wonder why your taxes are so high. And it's not efficient. If it were efficient, it would lead to... If the tax rate we have now were being used efficiently to to maintain and build infrastructure, our infrastructure would be perfect. We wouldn't have old rusty bridges. We wouldn't have potholes in the roads. We wouldn't have rusted shotgun blasted street signs. We wouldn't have traffic lights that routinely stop working and skip a couple turns at the intersection or anything like that. Then they'd be a foreign concept. We'd be like floating around in hovercraft by now if it were being used intelligently. We wouldn't even need roads. They say, who will build the roads in a monarchist society? Well, you probably wouldn't even need them. People would just use their own personal hovercrafts. They'd have a landing site in their front yard instead of a driveway, and they'd just drive that to work. It wouldn't need roads. The roads could be, plant them with orchards or something. Put in some green strips to absorb some of the pollution from human activity. It'd be a wonderful society. It'd be like living in some futuristic Atlantis novel or something like that. That's what would end up happening. But right now we can't invest in those happy little things because we've strangulated ourselves with bureaucracy. When some city says it's going to cost 65 grand to build fucking stairs, I could do that project. I don't even need any specific set of skills. Give me a book to read for an hour and I'll construct them. It might cost a little more than $550. And, I think I would have liked it to be a more decorative set of stairs myself. But I mean, what's the city going to build? It's going to be some cement. They're going to pour it in there, then mold it, and and grind it off a little bit and make it smooth. And that's what you'll get. And 10 years later, there'll be cracks in it. And it'll be chipped, and it won't even be up to code, and they won't even say anything about it because they're the ones that constructed it. This dude stairs, oh, screw him. It's DIY. It's illegal for private citizens to build their own infrastructure. That's the job of the government. No, it's not. Shouldn't be. Major infrastructure, yeah, you maintain a highway. Even that costs a lot of money. Why are they so dilapidated? You have constant problems with our bridges and roads in this country. Our rails, don't even talk about railroads and all the problems with them lately. And that's the problem. Government centralizes something, gives out a no-bid contract, a grant from taxpayers, and then the company, because of the strangulation and legalese involved, the company takes them for a ride, charges twice as much, takes twice as long, the people are on the hook for that, and the government doesn't even do anything about it. That's really the problem with significant bureaucracy and legalism within our countries. That's about all. Peace out.